Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of Close Corners, where today I'm joined again by my co-host Holden. We're going to come at you
Hello,
with some music
hello.
discussion today. We're primed, we're ready. Let's get to it. Holden, how you holding up?
I'm doing all right.
Excellent.
I'm at home
Mhm.
um in the suburbs.
Nice.
Um so um I'm very happy to get away from my city environment, which I'm used to
Hmm.
very much all the time.
Right.
Uh to see things such as grass.
And
Um
trees and
see trees, to see dirt, to see um things that
yeah,
are pretty helpful for the human body and mind.
the human body and mind. It's a very important thing to cultivate and to and to take care of. Um, yeah, for sure. Well, I'm doing, similarly.
How are you feeling? Yes.
Yeah, I'm chilling. Ready to get down to this whole podcasting thing. I thought
What do you want to tell me?
let's tee it off with some Hype Williams, some Dean Blunt.
Oh,
Let's talk Dean Blunt. Why
I
not?
like
It's
I
pretty
really like Hype
adjacent.
Williams.
Yeah,
I really like Hype Williams. I'll
I
talk
do
I'll
as
talk
well.
about anything. I'll talk
Word.
about anything. I'll talk about that.
Okay. Well, since you were my origin point to the wonderful world of Hype Williams and Dean Blunt, perhaps you could discuss their project that you had first showed me. Their
Yeah, so Hype Williams, I feel like it's a good way to start because
mhm,
it is like the first project that, as far as at least as far as I'm aware, it's the first project that um Dean Blunt, for those who are unfamiliar, is a very one of a kind musician of
mhm,
2010s music. They um, very much important to a lot, I guess, like modern art pop.
mhm.
Um, very much tend to be associated with a lot of hypnagogia pop music, um, and pretty much just like is an overall little jokester, little jokester of a musician.
I would definitely say there's an
Um,
element of joking and fooling around in a
yeah,
jovial way.
I think the lack of care
Mhm,
behind Dean Blunt's way of like presenting themselves
mhm.
is great. A lot of his
Nice.
music feels like it captures like a, excuse me, sorry, an
Mhm,
anti like aesthetic.
mhm.
And so it's kind of like everything feels a little bit, um, it always tends to feel a little bit up in the air. Um, but so where I would start off with the music that he's been involved in is, I bring it to Hype Williams, which was his project um, with another musician named Inga Copeland. And
Mhm.
Hype Williams is, I would find, to me, a very inspiring band when it comes to just like do like making music that is like one's just so it's so embedded in being like lazy
Mhm.
and like not at all caring about like what people think of it,
Yeah,
like whether to take it seriously or not, because I don't even think like the members themselves like even take it that seriously at all yet,
right.
like craft like a sound and like a world and an aesthetic, and it's really impressive.
Mhm,
But I think just like given this area of making music um with like it's like it's almost can be just like sometimes meme like in a
Hmm.
way. Like
Right, yeah. Where would
um
you put them on, like, as far as their sound? Like, they're not vapor, they're not like, I think slacker is an interesting description because that's
they definitely fit in that in one way
it's
or
like
another.
slacker pop almost. I've never thought about it like that, but I do think that slacker rock is one of my more favorite genres, like the Pavements in the of the world. You know, I do quite
Right.
like that kind of sound, and I never really identified that that's something that I liked, shared between the acts, but I believe I
No,
did.
yeah.
That just like very laid back. No one's trying too hard, but the product is still great. It's still great music, something worth listening to. Um,
Right.
yeah, and so it's kind of, I guess my challenge right now is trying to mm, explain the ethos of like Hype Williams, or maybe not the ethos, but like how they actually achieve the sound and styling that we're discussing. And I think it's definitely a combination of like low fidelity production as well as just kind of like the the goofy nature of some of the sampling and some of the sounds. And specifically talking about the work of Hype Williams, I think Dean Blunt's, solo work, a lot of what he's released by himself can tend to be a little more serious, and a little bit more still about the same production level and
I'm more deadpan.
a lot more
If I
deadpan,
would,
yeah.
yeah.
He's extremely deadpan. Definitely like if you look at, let me pull up his SoundCloud so I can look at what we're working with.
Like like black metal is especially very
Yeah,
deadpan.
but there's so
Um,
many great tracks on there. There's so many great genres borrowed from, like the track Lush, just having like jangle pop and then
oof,
he's just like doing his vocal thing over it. Uh,
yeah.
Stuff like that. I think I I really like that. It's somewhere between rapping and spoken word, I would say, because I do think that Hype Williams can step into
You're you you're right about that. You're
yeah, he
very
can
much
step
right
into
about
like a
that.
rapping headspace, but then a lot of the time it's spoken word. It's somewhere right in between, and you never really know what you're getting.
Right.
I would have to say. Uh,
No, yeah, absolutely. Um, Going back to Williams.
mm,
They were kind of, I feel like with the term like slacker, like
mhm,
that absolutely plays like into the sound, especially of like a lot of that kind of music to begin with.
mhm,
Um, because to also think about, like, Hype Williams is also to think about a lot of like that music that was coming out around, like that similar music that was coming out around that time and like before it,
mhm,
which was like hypnagogia pop, more so being um a reaction to like neo psychedelia,
mhm,
um and a lot of um what like hypnagogia pop was kind of like reminiscing on more so like the 70s and 80s. I think there's like a I think if I can recall, there was like a a little like interview or something,
mhm.
um like written, where like Inga Copeland was saying like they want their mu- like their music to feel like, something of like the past, like,
Mhm.
you know summer days and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
um and like I think it really plays in that, because I think if there's one word I can give to Hype Williams music that is very hard for me to give to other people's music, it's the
Mhm.
word like hazy. Like
Yeah.
their sound feels very hazy, and that's definitely constructed through um it's very much constructed through this very analog digital DIY approach, which
Mhm.
is um the music that they were making was digital, but
Mm,
the way that it was then being put through like anything else was lo-fi. Like
mm,
like it would usually be digital sounds going through like a cassette of some sort,
mm,
um, or um, I don't know what degree there was of any emulation of digital, but I think for the most part, a lot of it was um, those sounds being uh, played into tape, and then that recording of the tape being uh, like recorded on like the computer, and then
mm,
whatever further meandering of quality, basically. But um, it's so with like that being said, there
mm,
is a lot of different qualities to their music that make them sound the way they do, which is one, very much their overall general aesthetic and way of going about things, which is one, the this very like laziness factor, I would say. I would
mm,
bring that a lot from just like psychedelia to begin with. Like
mm.
I think that ranges from things to sometimes like, psych rock um to like to like krautrock. There's definitely a krautrock element in their music for sure.
Mm.
Um, and I think krautrock has also just played a lot in those like like slacker rock sounds, or like even
Mm.
like the hypnagogia sounds for on the more electronic side.
Yeah.
Um, but that's another thing too. I think like at the overall, like Hype Williams is like an electronic group.
Yeah, I would
Um,
definitely. I think that's the most fitting catch-all to say. I think definitely just electronic experimental, maybe.
right. Um,
Mm.
but also at sometimes like they're like they're like experimental, but sometimes they're quite like pop. Like I well like pop in like in a quite a shallow degree,
Right.
because there's pop that can that a lot like that can appeal to a lot of people, but I think it's pop on the spectrum that like, there's pop hooks, there's a pop sound,
Mm.
but the quality is not made for, you know, a very large audience, so to say.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Looking just at, I mean, I'm more familiar with the work of just like Dean Blunt as a solo release than as the work of Hype Williams, but like, I do definitely think a lot of the tracks here they have some level of pop appeal. Like, for instance, like The Narcissist, if you're familiar with that song, it does have Inga
oh,
Copeland on it,
absolutely.
but I would definitely think that's a song that a lot of people could identify with and appreciate, but it's definitely, yeah, it's definitely not made to be played on the radio. It's definitely his version of the
No.
sound. And
Which I
I like.
also, oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say how much I like him.
No, yeah, he's great. And
Mm,
I was gonna add to that point that like I think that's where what sets another thing with like Dean Blunt and just like Hype Williams is that is lack of concern of like how, like, I don't know how big they are, or like
yeah.
what how who what people they're reaching.
Mhm.
Like
I think it's yeah. I agree
most
with that. There's like a weird level of internet awareness of Dean Blunt, like to where it feels like nobody would know about him or his work, and then it'll just like randomly see like a Dean Blunt meme on Instagram or something, and you're like, who, who made this? Like it's kind of like it's kind of like those like when you know it, you see it type things, like it's a Dean Blunt meme, like or just like or someone referencing something that they made, and it's just one of those things, it's like a if you know you know, um
right,
type vibe, but it always surprises me whenever I see something like that come up.
right, yeah, no, absolutely, and like I think because like even especially more recently, I feel like Dean Blunt's work has been like more like low key
Mm,
in terms of release. Like I think just very recently, I don't even know if this is entire was it like entirely official or something, but people found it or
mm.
received it or whatever. But apparently, there's a whole like 2 hour like Dean Blunt album called like Hackney Commercial Waste that came out not on streaming, but it's just like the logo of like some like commercial waste company in like Hackney, England. Um and like and all of it is just a bunch of like instrumentals done with like Tyson and Poison um and I was listening to a little bit of it and it's
Yeah,
awesome.
I just
Dean
found the
Blunt's
video. Yeah,
awesome.
it was uploaded nine
Um
days ago and has 600 views.
Yeah. So and so like um there's like a very much a like yeah, things like that are like it like I feel like D Blunt's discography is especially really interesting because
Mhm.
there's a lot that bounces between things being albums or things being like compilations
Mm.
or singles and or
Yeah, he
like
definitely
DJ
releases.
mixes.
Yeah, he definitely
Yeah.
releases in a lot of different mediums. Like he's not, just releasing EPs or albums or mixtapes. Like he's experimenting all the time, which I also like. I like that in an artist when they're versatile like
Right.
that.
Because I think like for I think the way we conceptualize an album is
Hmm.
very much a beginning to end thing, and you can feel the same way about a compilation. Although a compilation takes a bigger form, sometimes a much more larger form,
Hmm.
less entirely conceptual, but can be conceptual.
Right.
Like I mean, it comes down to because I mean, like one of the people I could think about like as concept in that realm is like the caretaker,
Mm.
using like for like everywhere at the end of time, like having like these six stages and
That's a whole other
of
project we could actually hit on. I would really love to discuss the Everywhere at the End of Time for those who are unfamiliar.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Unless you had anything else you
Um,
wanted to say on Dean Blunt before we move to that.
well, I got I think like I think really just like um one of the other things that about like that sound I think a lot about is also how much like the it's rooted in kind of like noise. Just because of like what the sound is filtered through, you have like this digital bit crushy sound that sometimes
Yeah.
clips the mixer. Um, like it kind of sounds like the audio is breaking. Like it makes it feel like it's old, and then it's also going through like tape hiss and everything to give it like a new texture.
Hmm.
Um, but more so like industrial music. Like I think like when I listen to a lot of like you know when I listen to like things like Hype Williams, the aesthetic of like kind of like the anybody can make music like ethos
Hmm.
is very much there, and I especially like gather that a lot through like music like Throbbing Gristle, where Throbbing Gristle kind of as like industrial pioneers like would make like these like insane like sounds for their time,
Hmm.
and but otherwise kind of had like an anti aesthetic to them. Like I think that's the thing with like Hype Williams is that like they don't really tend to play into like a world or a like I mean a
Hmm.
sound world, yes, but like on like the visual like 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 album cover wise, it's much more like it feels much more like simple and like um it definitely feels a lot more simple and plain rather than
Mm.
like a complex world. Like I think that's just a part of like I feel like just like the kind of like lazy aesthetic.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, they're not
and
going
like
above and beyond, and I think that's also captured on the 2008 to 2011 VHS. I don't know.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I think
Like
that was I think what most caught my attention because that was the first thing you had shown me from this like greater body of work was that VHS tape, and
mhm.
just yeah, definitely
The Bill Cosby tape
the Bill Cosby
to be
tape.
exact.
I mean, and you know, as unfortunate as that now is, but like yeah, like the Bill Cosby tape, it's just really it definitely fits in with what you were saying about like they're just like normal people in like normal environments, like in a house or in a bathtub or on the playground. But the way they're able to capture those moments and the music that's accompanying them is completely transformative in a way I don't think like
Oh, absolutely.
I would expect, something so mundane to be able to be transformed. Like especially the I think it's the second or third track. It's the second track of Inga just like spinning around on the basketball court and just the
Oh,
beautiful yeah.
yeah. And that track is the last song on their Untitled album,
Yeah.
um which is I can't remember if they have two albums called Untitled, but it's
Yeah.
it's a it's untitled it's a untitled with like the weed leaves on it, which
Yeah.
I would go to say is actually that record's my favorite Hype Williams record.
Oh, Untitled
um
2010. Yeah, it's a. Let me see. The track listing is they're all also untitled, which I think is awesome. Like,
yeah,
it's like we're not
which is
naming anything.
yeah, which is like it's just like that just feels like the music, like it's kind of like a
Mm,
lot, it just feels like found, and to one degree their music is kind of like found, like a lot of their like music too, like you could like kind of see it as almost like a proto vaporwave,
mm,
in a sense, like um I'll get back to talking about the Untitled album, but
mm,
on on Hype Williams one record, I'm gonna quickly pull it up because I wanted to say the name.
mm.
On their record, find out what happens when people stop being polite, and it cut off there. So now I can't see what the rest
Oh,
of it.
find out what
Um,
happens when people stop being polite and start getting real.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, which, by the way, I feel like it's just like a fantastic like summer like album. Like,
Mm.
there's nothing that just like feels more like summer than that record.
Yeah.
Um, like
I'm on like
there's
the
the
Rate Your Music like reviews of it, and it's just like everybody is just so taken aback at how like strange it is, but how also beautiful it is at the same time. Like it's like this guy wrote, this music has such an interesting, weirdly dreamy quality to it. I cannot describe how it makes me feel, but it's really cool and good. Like that I
no,
would say
yeah, like
that's how I react to it too.
which I think like that's I feel like strange is always been like a thing to talk about Hype Williams music, because they are quite like elusive, and
Mm,
I'll also get into that in a second too. But like the song Blue Dream on that record,
mm.
which by the way came out in 2010, so I don't even know if this was before or after Daniel Lopatin's Chuck Person Echo Jams, but um, Blue Dream samples like this like Camel cigarettes commercial
Right.
that was played like in in like clubs in like South America.
That's
So it's
crazy.
kind of like it was kind of like the use of like this like lost media, like this old media, and then like reinterpreted for like a new style and like sound and everything,
Mm.
which is like that is definitely very much of the vapor, the vapor sound.
The
I
Vapor
think people
Vision.
would also uh like throw that into the vapor cannon.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna quickly talk about. I'd like to talk about Untitled for a second
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
um, of of the records that Hype Williams has, it's definitely there's just something about it that I can't like really describe. It
That's the
feels
thing.
very much. It
It's
feels
like a
foreign. It feels very foreign
it
in a
feels like
way.
nothing you've
And
ever heard before. I would definitely implore anybody listening to definitely check out Untitled 2010 Hype Williams. You know, it's just
yeah,
I'm listening to it right now to jog myself on it, and it's just it's really otherworldly, but it's still
yeah,
so serene and beautiful. It's just a feeling I've never really experienced before, and I think that's why I just am so interested in the continued work of Hype Williams and Dean Blunt, especially because this stuff was coming out in like 2010. Like that's really remarkable because it's so ahead of its time. I think definitely like I feel like these are experimental noises that are more frequently being like hit on now, and I had no idea there was a basis uh in this era. And of course I when you're approaching music, especially experimental music, you're gonna run into a lot of that, things you didn't know that did it first, or things that in a weird way inspired something else. But I'm just constantly fascinated by how this was able to come out in an era before really just like because I think social media and wider streaming platforms have really allowed for music to grow rapidly and for experimentation to be done a lot easier. But like just like they were before that wave. Like 2010 was definitely, I would say, before like the modern wave of social media music and stuff like that.
yeah. It was just like the beginning of like it was really like the beginning of like like of like the globalization of
Hmm.
like everything was globalized, but like this was where like the analog was really forming with like the digital, and that was what I feel like a lot of the kind of music that was around, that was very similar to Hype Williams was kind of trying to capture this, like whether it was the things before Hype Williams or the things coming after,
Hmm.
like it was, it was largely reactive to a world that was moving from analog to digital, which is why I feel like with music that is similar to Hype Williams, there's this kind of obsession with, old technology
Hmm.
in the recordings of the music, which is definitely taken from people like, Ariel Pink, who otherwise like has like such an aesthetic that feels very old, and he was like doing all that stuff since like the early 2000s. So
Really,
um
I didn't really even know about that. I thought Ariel Pink was a 2010s phenomenon. I had no idea.
oh no, he had I think like he did like single-handedly, like he was definitely like the pioneer of like all that hypnagogia
Interesting.
pop sound. And I think where that kind of interceded was um Ariel Pink's sound was especially very like slacker, like very
Hmm.
very like lazy, slacker, hazy, all of that, and tied in with a lot of the neo psych noisy stuff that was happening, like with like groups like Animal Collective, Black
Hmm.
Dice, Gang Dance, which I would actually say the last one, their one record, it's like I think it's like Survival of the Shittiest, uh, had which by the way, oh my god, what a fantastic record.
I'll make a note of of
Definitely
listening to that.
played into um into the inspiration of Untitled by Hype Williams,
Mhm.
from 2010. Um, but getting back to like talking about that, like there is Untitled has a many different sounds of it feels it bounces between like ambient dub and tribal dub, or tribal ambient, I mean.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of like, it feels very ritualistic from time to time, like at least some of the tracks. Other tracks are very like calm and just delayed. Like I tend to feel like I'm in like I'm somewhere between like a childhood fever dream and like a kind of like a foreign like rainforest
Like an
of some
alien
sort.
rainforest, yeah.
Yeah, like it's almost it feels there's kind of like not, I feel like extraterrestrial isn't the right word, but if we're talking about alien as in something that is foreign,
Yeah.
like I definitely feel that with this music. Like track one is like this. It starts out with like this like this sample of like this like girl like like crying, and then which by the way is not the only time that they've started their album with like someone crying. On the other, the one that we were mentioning earlier, the Find Out What Happens, on that record they had like they have like an auto-tune like a baby crying.
The auto-tune baby crying, I've heard that as a meme. I had no idea that was a Hype Williams creation. Like I've like heard that but like to link it back to that was crazy. That was a crazy moment for me.
Which I not actually sure if that was a hype like Hype Williams did that, but I'm also like,
if that was the origin, like, you don't know.
I would like to think that was the origin moment, because like, I mean that's 2010.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like, I feel like meme content wasn't like that. Like at least like on a larger scale, it was not like that until like a few years after.
Right.
So like I kind of I wouldn't be surprised if that was a Hype Williams creation, but I do not have the facts to check that, unfortunately.
Weird. Yeah, I was just looking on the internet to try to find a Know Your Meme page. Seems a little obscure. Well, thanks for tuning in to the unexpected Dean Blunt episode. You know, we didn't go into it with that idea, but I think it was great.
So Hype Williams. I think
the Hype Williams and Dean Blunt, and
Hype Williams.
The great mind of Dean Blunt and affiliated artists. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again, you know, like we always do, with more things to think about, more things to ponder, more albums to check out. We hope to see you then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.
Thank you.